Hi, I'm Reggie Turner. I'm here with Jim Miller and Terrence Moore. The Flip Side starts right now. Welcome to the show. Gentlemen, it is good to be back in the saddle with you today. But before we get started, I'm bringing out the calculator for you.
Okay.
So it's time to do some calculations.
Okay.
All right.
Are we doing election stuff?
We're doing some election stuff. I'm shaking it up a little bit.
Let's get started on that. I mean,
right.
that's a valid block.
All right.
All right.
So let's update some of our predictions and numbers around the election. Are you ready, Mr. Moore?
I'm ready. The race to November 8th.
All right, let's go. Let's review the governor's and lieutenant governor's race. You have Dan Cox as the Republican up against Wes Moore. Jim, first, before you give your predictions, give me some thoughts on the race.
Yeah, so my personal preference would have been to see Kelly Schultz and Jeff Woolard get the Republican nomination. I was shocked that Peter Franchot did not get the Democratic nomination. Yeah, those are my two thoughts. Now, do you want my predictions?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So I'm giving it 55-45 in favor of the Democratic candidate Wes Moore and Aruna Miller. The reason for that is that I think that Hogan was wildly popular because he is a rhino. He is, let's face it. His candidate, Kelly Schultz, did not make it through the primary. The reason that, and now we have independents and Democrats voting. And in Maryland, even without the independents, the Democrats can probably pull the string all by themselves with a couple of turnovers. So I think it's, in my mind, again, 55% for Democratic candidate and 45% for Mr. Cox and Mr. Schiafinelli.
Terrence, if I remember correctly, I'm not sure if it was you or was it I. Were you 95 Moore, 5% Cox?
About that number. I still am. You know, as Jim pointed out, I think a lot of people thought Schultz was going to take it and Franchot was going to be the two candidates. But to see who did come out speaks volumes as well. It's a departure from the norm, a departure from the Hogan administration as well. And just kind of looking at the marketing and the support that Wes Moore is garnering, he has the younger vote from my perception. His team is young. His marketing and his outreach is more catering to the campaigning of today. So I really believe that he's just coasting into November at this time, and he's hitting all the high marks.
Okay. As a point of disclosure, are you a strategist for Wes Moore?
Nor am I related to him either.
Okay,
but no, not at all. I just think that he's playing to a different demographic. He's been very polished. He's done his best to avoid controversy, though early on he may have had some, but I think a lot of have departed from that. That narrative has kind of waned away. So I really think right now, I think that this is a push towards a different leadership in Maryland, though I don't understand why, because I'm personally was in support of many of the things that Governor Hogan has done for the state of Maryland. And though I don't agree with everything, but I can't see where you would want to shift too far from what has been successful in the state.
So are you still 95 Moore, 5% Cox?
I am.
Okay. Well, the interesting thing is, since the primaries have been over, a lot of Hogan's big donors shut the spigots off for Cox and have been contributing to Moore. And obviously, just like in any other state, in the primaries you get more extremes voting, so obviously that's what shepherded in Cox to win. But I'm still 95-5.
In favor of Democrat?
In favor of Democrat in regards to this race. I haven't I haven't seen anything from a campaign standpoint or an energy standpoint. I mean, just read the tea leaves. I mean, if you look at this county and surrounding counties, do you see any of the current Republican office holders stumping for Cox?
No.
Because, I've heard around the state that many Republicans are just going to sit that out.
Absolutely. I think he can offer up some divisiveness. He can amongst the party. And they say if you don't have something good to say, don't say nothing at all. So you see a lot of Republican legislators kind of not getting involved, not attaching themselves, but there is always a chance. And you have to work within your party. So I think that the best way is to avoid the divisiveness amongst the party is to kind of take a step back and not go against him, but also not come out and stump for him.
Yeah.
And put yourself at risk.
Yeah. Next race I want to cover with you, gentlemen, the comptroller race, where you have Barry Glassman, the Republican, against Brooke Lierman, the Democrat.
I'll sum it up in 2 words. Barry who?
Exactly.
So, I'm a hedge my bets kind of guy, and I know that the electorate can be a strange bunch of people, myself included, but I am putting this one at 99-1
Ooh.
in favor of, Miss Lierman.
Mr. Moore.
I'm all in, 100%. I think Brooke.
No hedge there.
I'm all in. I'm pushing my chips on the table. I think with experience, name recognition, I can't see how, other than individuals voting party line, that she doesn't take it.
And some people are going to vote party line. Let's face it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You'll have a 20% party line vote.
Yeah, my 100% isn't that he gets no votes.
Right.
It's
just that she will win.
She will win. And
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
she-
And that's the way I am as
Yeah.
well.
Well, thank for that clarification, gentlemen, because I meant the same. I can't let you outdo me on this one, Terrence. I am 100% with Brooke Lierman, from fundraising to events to the fact that she has been all over the state multiple times, and I'll
Including
just
on the show before she was a candidate.
before she was a candidate on the show. But she has been to Western Maryland more times than Westmore has.
100%.
Or Cox.
Or
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Cox said it's conservative. I got that in the bag. I got to go elsewhere. But I just think it's just a no-brainer in regards to her. And I have not heard anything, as you said, I haven't heard anything from Glassman at all. So
Yeah, and I think she has the relationships, and and I'm hopeful that she wins as well, because you want some momentum, as well as having a brand new governor. If Westmore does win, he doesn't have the experience,
Right.
nor does Cox, right? So no matter what, we're going to get a governor that doesn't have the level of
Legislative
experience that they
experience.
need.
Yes.
So to have a strong comptroller is going to be extremely important, especially where we're at right now economically.
great. We're going to go down the line, some of these more obscure races that we normally don't pay attention to if we look at it from an everyday citizenry standpoint. But the Attorney General race, we have Michael Perota as the Republican running against Anthony Brown. Jim, I'm bouncing back to you on this
Yeah.
race.
So, number one, we have to remember that Anthony Brown was a former candidate for
For
governor.
Mhm.
And frankly, a lot of people thought to be a shoe-in for governor. And then he got pretty well his clock cleaned by Larry Hogan.
And then became a congressman.
Right. But I think, frankly, in my view, I think I'm putting Attorney General 99-1. Hedging my bets again.
Now, I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. I will probably go 1% chance with the Attorney General right now, because I do believe that, unfortunately, most voters aren't really educated on the power and authority of an attorney general within their state as well. I think these are one of the ways that people tend to vote just straight party line. So, and depending on voter turnout, and of course the unaffiliated voters as well as a lot of the independent voters coming out, there's still a chance. So I'll go 99-1 myself in favor of Brown.
I'll go 95-5.
Ooh, okay.
I'll go 95-5. But everything is heavily leaning in the Democratic direction in regards to this race. Have either of you heard? Well, to be honest, in regards to this race, have we heard anything really from either candidate? I know that Anthony Brown was here in regards to an opioid conference or talk with David Trone, but in regards to this race, I haven't heard anything from him.
And that's why I believe it's one of those party votes and name recognition votes. So I can't see it going any other way.
All right, next up for our U.S. Senator, we have Chris Chafee on the Republican side running against Chris Van Hollen.
Yeah. So, Senator Van Hollen has served for a while, had some health issues.
Had a health scare
right
a few months back.
I think people either don't know about that or have short memory. So I'm not sure that that's going to affect his legitimacy or chances in this election.
We've been electing 75-plus-year-old presidents. I don't think people are paying much attention to the health
I agree.
issues at this point.
That said, I'm going to give Mr. Chafee a 30% chance and Mr. Van Hollen a 70% chance. And I will say off the bat that I think that's low for Mr. Van Hollen. It probably is higher than that, but I'm going to say 70-30.
I'm a little bit more 80-20.
Okay.
Van Hollen, and I agree with the health scare. I don't believe that's an issue. We see it in Pennsylvania where one of the candidates pretty much was out of the hospital bed during the primaries and came out and still won commandingly. So I don't think health is really high on everyone's list. And we've seen it in our presidents over the last 2 presidents we had as well. But I believe that Van Hollen has done enough in his service to warrant a victory.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with that 80-20 on that as well. I mean, since it is a Senate race, it may get a little bit more closer scrutiny and attention.
You think?
Well, for you, it would need to have more scrutiny, right? Because you bet me a dinner that the Republicans will win the House and the Senate. You need this seat.
I did bet you a dinner. Was I drunk that night? I don't drink that much. But
Breaking news.
No,
Jim was drinking on the camera.
No, I wasn't. For the record, I was not. But that, okay.
So put an asterisk by that one because that'll definitely go towards my winning total for that steak dinner. Oh, man, that prime rib is going to be nice. Next race, our representative in Congress for District 6. We have our local representative, Neil Parrott, against David Trone. The numbers have been moving on that one.
Yeah. Where's your number on that? I want to hear from you first on this one.
Trone's up by 10 points on that. Now, in my odds to win, I'm saying 10 points in regards to what the race
right, no,
looks
I get
like,
it.
Right?
Right.
But I believe that Trone's 70-30 right now. I mean, I think it's evident that you're seeing his $10 million that he has thrown to his campaign is working very heavily. I really thought that national money was going to come in for Parrott, and that has not materialized because I think Republicans have some unexpected fires and they're putting them out elsewhere. So this race is not getting the attention that I thought that it would get. And like Trone is even using his money to hammer Parrott on Tattoo-gate.
Yeah, that was a distasteful commercial in my eyes, and personally. The thought or the statement of even tattooing people because they have HIV, but even to see the image on television of
Yeah,
babies
it was
with
a little over the tattoo. It was a little over the tattoo top. But here's the problem. It's true. I mean, we all point to these political commercials where the candidates spin the other person's record. There's not much spin to be had there. In fact, I was with a group of friends on Saturday who were just aghast that they would play that commercial because it wasn't true. And I said, yeah, check the Herald Mail history site. And they looked it up and it was like, oh my goodness, who would ever do that?
Now, and don't get me wrong, again, that's even more disgusting, the truth behind making that kind of recommendation. But there has to be a line of what we put in marketing, advertising, and campaign. Make the statement, tell us how distasteful it was. The image on my television is something I don't want to see.
Right, but I think that we as a society are desensitized, right? I mean, we've went through the Trump years where anything was fair game. So I don't think anyone's going to be moved.
Oh no, not moved. I just want to make that statement that
right.
we need to pull it back a little bit with these campaigning and how far we go. And I get, speak against it, but I think there has to be a line from a marketing standpoint in campaigning.
And another thing that I've been hearing from some of our friends around the state is, one reason why Trone's investment in this campaign is so large is because he has his eyes on Senator Ben Cardin's seat. Because, the word is he may be looking to retire soon.
And that's why I'm 90-10. I think Trone right now is all in. He's put his money into the campaign. You can't turn on your television. I don't think a day goes by where I haven't seen one of his campaign ads
100%.
out there.
Or Facebook.
Or social
or,
media,
yeah,
like
media.
they're pop
or
up
YouTube
everywhere.
or whatever.
He's having barbecues. He's showing up to events. He's doing talks. Again, September's a big month for him because he is a large supporter of opioid awareness. So he's really used this month to kind of propel his public outings a little bit more in support of that, as the rest of the state and some of the country as well speak about how the opioid crisis and how to address it and issues with addiction. So I think this is him really just catapulting past Parrott in this race, and I don't see anything from Parrott. I don't see anything. I see the signs. I see the support. I see
His marketing is to the base, like
Yes.
the primary base.
Right.
It's like it's not a general election campaign.
Right. Agreed.
So next, State Senator District 1.
Wait, Jim, you didn't give your
Oh, that's
Your
right,
numbers.
Jim.
Oh, I didn't?
Yeah.
Oh, do I have to?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I am, so you were 90-10?
90-10.
You were 70-30. I'm 75-25 in favor of Trone.
Yeah.
Now remember, I had this dead even just weeks ago.
Well, you remember when we first talked about this, I had Parrott in the lead.
Yeah.
But there were some calculations that I made in regards to national support and exposure that just never materialized.
They have not.
And $10 million
Is a
can
lot
do a
of money.
Could you imagine if you ran for county commissioner with $10 million?
Yeah.
That's a third of the surplus.
And I'll tell you, there you
He was
go.
going to go there.
And I'll tell you, I mean, that ad, as disgusting as the ad was, and I completely agree with you, it shouldn't have been run. But that's not the worst ad I've ever seen for a political candidate, number one. But here's the problem. For those of us that remember that story and were just shocked by it, it hit me.
I had never heard the story until we had a conversation about it, I think prior to a show a few weeks ago when we were just discussing it. So yeah, I can see the shock value. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It does have some shock value.
And again, the unfortunate part for Mr. Parrott, it's true. I mean, you
Right.
can't.
It's no embellishing. It's none of that. It
No,
is true.
you can't unring that bell.
Right. Right. Well, gentlemen, we've covered the state races. How about we take a quick break and then we come back and we cover the more local races?
Let's do that.
All right. Stay with us and we'll have more of our election review after the break. Welcome back to the show. We're going to jump right back into our election review for this upcoming election season that is fastly approaching us. Gentlemen, we're going to jump in for State Center. We're going to look at District 1, where we have Mike McKay as the Republican, currently serving as delegate of 1C, I believe.
Right.
And he is running against Michael Dreisbach, I believe, that is originally from Williamsport,
Yes. And
as the Democrat.
yes, and we see a lot of Michael Dreisbach signs throughout Williamsport if you drive around, especially back in the Falling Waters area.
I haven't been over there. So.
But that's the only place that I see them.
Right.
So, you know, I don't know much about Mr. Dreisbach, and you know, I would like to, but I don't. The fact of the matter is, in my view, this is a 90-10 in favor of
McKay.
Delegate McKay, now Delegate McKay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm all in on this one too. Delegate McKay, I think, has this one. And again, I can't say anything that that's unfavorable by
About
Mr. Dreisbach. I don't.
Yeah, I can't
don't-
say anything unfavorable about Mr. Dreisbach. Well, the only thing unfavorable I can say is
You don't
I
have
don't know
anything-
about him.
Right.
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 It's the campaign.
And you know, and Delegate McKay has, let's face it, a pretty good track record in Annapolis.
Yep, has a good track record. His campaigning has been subtle yet effective. You know, he's just been doing his job, right?
And that's the advantage that he has running against someone without a track record.
Correct.
He can just do his job.
Yep. Yeah.
He can just do his job. So I'm with you guys. Man, I'm going 90-10 for Mike on this one. I mean, we thought, you know, there was a thought there that the contested Republican primary between him and Shade would work out to be something, but you know, he blew him out by 25 points. So, you know, with that being said, yeah, I think this is pretty much a done deal. Next up, on the state senator's side, we have District 2 that's a little bit closer to us. We have the incumbent Paul Quarterman running on the Republican side, and we have Sean Demetrius Perry running on the Democratic side. Jim, I'm coming to you. You got to look.
Okay. So I hedge my bets, right? I've said that all evening. This is no different. 100% Quarterman. Oh, wait a minute. I mean, you want to talk about a guy that's gotten things done for this county, and I think has been a good steward of the state funds. He's your guy,
Right.
in my opinion.
Yeah, same here, 100% Quarterman, but he came in as a ringer, right? He walked in. It was
A ringer of his own making. The man is involved in everything.
like,
Yes, it would only be a different election if the stadium didn't go.
exactly, and that's what I'm saying. He walked in with a win, a huge win that
But
has been
even-
decades long.
But even if it didn't, and there are those that for him the stadium will count against him, not for him. But even if you take the stadium completely out of the mix, he's got a track record, and it's good.
But again,
He works across the aisle.
absolutely, and I agree with all that. As the closer you are to him and his politics, you see that. I don't think everyone sees that or recognizes that. So I believe what is recognizable is the big project, and I think that really propelled him forward. You know, because Quarterman has also taken some shots for him being appointed several times, a number of times, not saying several, in his political career. But every time he's been appointed, when it's time to campaign, he wins, and he's doing the work, and is stacking up wins on his behalf. So I do say that Perry has done his best to be out there in the community. He has done his best to be public as much as possible and learning in that process as well. And I'm glad that I really don't like when people run unopposed. So I like to hear another voice. It's unfortunate. Maybe I can see Perry in a smaller race, in a different lane. But for this one right here, I think he really came up against someone that had already won before they even registered.
Right. you know, looking at this race, it's kind of like what we talked about with McKay. Quarterman didn't need to do anything special but just do his job. You know, Quarterman spent all spring just reporting the money that was coming in, whether it was through bond bills, whether it was through, you know, the Board of Public Works. He was just reporting, like, you know, the wins that our community was getting. So it made it easy from that standpoint.
But here's the thing. If you buy into the fact that communication is at least half the battle, and if you also buy into the fact that the biggest fallacy in communication is that it ever occurred, he is getting the message out. He is communicating with his constituents. They know what he's doing, they know what he's thinking, they know where he is on issues.
Absolutely.
And not just in the election cycle.
Absolutely. And you know when the whole dust up happened in regards to the state of downtown and things, like, he stepped out there to stand up for the business community.
Yes, he did.
He didn't have to,
No, he didn't.
right? I mean, because he's in an election that it looks like he's coasting, but he stepped out there and made a stand
In an election year,
in an election.
with an opinion that could be unpopular.
But I would never say he's coasting in his campaigning either.
No.
Because he's been on the streets,
True,
his social media, he's at every event, he's at high schools, he has, you know, his signs are out there. So I don't, as easy as it could have been for him to kind of rest on his, you know what, I'm just going to win this. He's been out there heavily campaigning and doing the work, building relationships, and also healing some of the relationships, hopefully, that maybe the stadium did, you know, rub some people the wrong way. So I think he's continued his work as well as campaigning, which makes it an uphill battle for Perry to, one, to get your name out there, and two, when you don't have someone in a seat that is controversial or people are trying to get removed, it made it difficult for him.
Right. I just, I see, Perry getting the Democratic vote, right? The straight party line vote. That's the vote that he'll get. The other thing that I've seen from his campaign, from social media, it looks like he ran a city-centric campaign. Like, your district is much larger than just the city of Hagerstown, where it seems like all of his focus has been.
Yeah.
And kind of looking at that, like, Thurmont's included in that district.
Huh?
I believe a portion of Thurmont is included in that district, if I'm
It is.
I'm correct.
Interesting.
But I think that's where the learning curve came in at, right? You only can go where you know. And I think he built on the relationships he did have, and a lot of those relationships was Hagerstown centric. And it's hard to get into those other areas and get your name out there and be more public, sometimes without an introduction. So I believe he's built better relationships, possibly, maybe for a future run for something. But I think he walked in with one arm tied behind his back.
True, and he's under-resourced, right?
He is absolutely under-resourced. I don't know much about him.
Quarterman is resourced enough that he can pass money along to Brenda and other folks that he would, like to serve with. And the thing is, maybe Perry's going to be better suited in 2 years to run for city council or mayor.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I wouldn't put that against him.
Yeah.
All right. So where are you?
I'm going 100 because I just don't see anything that's going to move the needle.
So this is the only category so far where we've all been 100.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I think when you look back,
if he loses,
you should have 100 on Brooke Learman.
Yeah. Well, I probably should have.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's
I was making a statement about my support. Soon to be Senator Quarterman.
But let me say this as well, just kind of before we wrap up this one. You set the bar, Quarterman. You got to stay up there.
Yeah.
I think.
Does anybody have any doubt that he'll do that, though?
There's always doubt. There's always doubt. There's always challenges. And we're about to make a real turn in our economy and what's going on locally in this district. A lot is happening in this area right now.
Well, let's talk about what those challenges look like. You're more than likely are going to have a Democratic governor.
More than likely.
Mm-hmm.
That does not have an affinity for Western Maryland.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, he sent his lieutenant out here But other than the trip up to Allegheny County for that Democratic convention or whatever they call it, he hasn't been here. I mean, he has centralized himself, in the metro areas. So you combine Democrats in control in Annapolis, along with a economy that is shrinking. Dollars are going to be hard to come by. Getting the funding in to do additional projects is going to require working across the aisle and some real hard negotiating done to still.
But he
keep
has a
Hagerstown
history of
moving.
doing that.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's just going to be harder.
It is.
It was easier under a Republican governor that has focused on Western Maryland.
I understand.
And putting investment there. Now, when you're back to Democratic centric, and there may not be as much of a focus on Western Maryland, that's just going to be a harder task.
But and again, I'll play devil's advocate against me playing devil's advocate. You've seen him already doing some of that early, right? You've seen him with Senator Gazone coming out here and paying a visit. A big Democrat down in Annapolis as well. So to be able to bring Democrats into your community to show them the investments and what you're doing with the money you're bringing home really shows his ability and willingness to work across the aisle with Democrats. Again, but it's consistency. And when you set the bar for yourself, you got to continue to either raise that bar or hang on to it for dear life.
Gotcha. I'm looking here, gentlemen. A more obscure race is District 1C, where Terry Baker ran unopposed in the primary.
We think that's obscure?
It's not a race that I vote on, so.
Oh, okay. All right.
And Kerry Hinton, on the Democratic side, ran unopposed. I apologize for saying that's an obscure race, but Jim, I'm going to let you take the lead on this one.
Yeah. 80-20 Baker. I don't know much about Hinton. I think it's 80-20 Baker.
I'm going 100% Baker, and that's just looking at the numbers. They both ran unopposed, and Baker brought in 3,500 votes from Republicans. Hinton brought in 1,325 votes from Democrats, and now we include even independents and the unaffiliates. I just can't see where Hinton makes up those votes. So I just think, even voting down party lines, I see Baker kind of, taking it all.
All right, gentlemen, going to District 2A. I'm going 100%.
Well, wait a minute. Are you Baker? Where are you on Baker?
Oh, I'm going 100 Baker.
Okay.
I'm going 100 Baker. And going to District 2A, I'm going 100 Bill Weibel because he's running unopposed.
Well, he's really not.
He's not? Yes, he is.
What about Valentine?
Yeah, Valentine's still there.
Oh, I forgot that this race is opened up to two Republicans.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going 90-10 Weibel.
I'm 100% a Republican wins. I can say that, right? That's more like it, right? But
I love it when you take a chance.
That's it. But yeah, again, if you look at the party again, you can see the votes the primaries, the votes during the primaries. What, 25, 30 points say he beat him by? It just thinks it's too substantial for him to take this.
So what are you saying?
Weibel, 100%.
Okay. I have Weibel at 95.
Okay. All reasonable. All right, the last of our state representatives, we have District 2B.
This is an interesting one.
The most highly contested race in our community,
Yes.
as we've said for months.
So maybe we should take a break and come back to that one.
If you want to keep them in suspense, I am all for it. So
All right.
we're going to hold there and come back and talk about District 2B and some other races after the break. Welcome back to the show. We're continuing our election review, and we're going to start with the most hotly contested race that we have in our area, District 2B. I got the handy dandy calculator out for some calculations on this one.
Okay.
But Jim, we're going to come to you first and give us your outlook and how you see it.
So I really expected to come at this as a shoe-in for Delegate Shame. And I'm not at this point, because I am hearing a lot more from Grossman than I am from Shame. I'm not always liking what I hear from Ms. Grossman, because some of her topics in my mind are opportunistic. It's really easy to have a topic that everybody thinks is bad and glob on and say how bad it is. But regardless, she's out there and she's talking and she's active. And I don't see that same level from Brenda Shame, unless I'm missing something. So I'm going to say 60-40 in favor of Delegate Shame.
Okay.
And I think that's generous.
So that race is tightened for you.
It's tightened a lot.
Okay. Mr. Moore.
I'm with you, Jim. I can kind of concur with everything you said. I would have loved to see Brenda, who was put in her position as well, pointed as well, do more that she can be speaking of right now, and tout a little bit more of that. And the things that she has done, I'm not hearing about them right now. I think she could be out there using her voice a lot more. I know early on she had more of a presence prior to the primaries. I haven't seen as much of that now. And this one I have to go to the numbers again, right? And the numbers show that, when Delegate Sham won her race in the primaries, it was almost a 50-50 split. It was 45-54, even though she still brought in almost 1,000 votes. Brooke Grossman won commandingly with almost 1,200 votes in her race. And again, these races did not include the independents and unaffiliates that are going to be coming in here. Yeah. And I really believe that population will lean heavily towards the Democrats.
Maybe.
Maybe. I just believe.
I think this is going to be a rough year to be a Democrat, quite frankly. I really do. With inflation and everything else, and I know that that's national politics, not local politics, but what's the saying about what rolls downhill?
But there's some things that are counteracting that even on a national level.
Yeah, right? But we just went through this whole list, and majority of the ones that we said gave the highest were Democrats.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but they were shoo-ins.
Again, this is what I'm saying here. And I think people, if you don't know, you stick with what you know. And I'm talking about, this is one of those party line votes that I believe is going to come down to.
And if Washington County has a Democratic-leaning district, this would be it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'll buy that.
This would definitely be it.
But points exactly what you said. That's why you glob on to those,
national issues.
Right. Not even just national issues like, oh, really? We have an issue with poverty? Right. Okay. We know that. We have an issue with homelessness? Yeah, we know that. Again, I'm not hearing solutions across the board from anyone.
Well, that's exactly the problem.
That's the problem. It's kind of, I know we have an issue, and I'll fight to change this. How? Right? I want to hear a little bit more of the how, a little bit more of the strategy. What are you going to do when you get in office that's going to be different? How are you going to change things? You personally, as an elected official, when you take this down to Annapolis, it's easy to play in the sandbox up here in Washington County. I'm sorry to say that. But you're taking this to a whole new league and representing that sandbox at a state level. And everybody is facing the same issues to some degree, and it's really about who you know, how you work with others, your leverage, things that you have to do when you get down to Annapolis. And I do give that to Brenda because she has some time doing so.
And she went through her bumps and bruises when she first got down there.
And we
She
just
did.
said, and we all should
But she needs to tell people that.
exactly. That's
She
what
needs
I'm saying.
to get on the street in this last month and tell people that.
But also, every friend you make an enemy as well, right? So not just saying that Brooke has some leverage that she may be go in there and may work code magic with some of those individuals. But I think Brenda's big push is a relationship with Paul Quarterman. We just talked about some of the success he had, a lot of the success he had. He's had a longer amount of time down in Annapolis. So who does he take under his wing more easily in this process?
And you make a good point. Like, Quarterman could pull her across the finish line.
Could.
You know,
But does he want to use his political capital on that?
he has been,
Well,
And
but at some point,
but he has capital to spend.
arguably, at some point, regardless of what's the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. She's got to step up herself at some point.
No, and I agree with that holistically, but it's also about, I think that if I'm Brooke Grossman, I'm building relationships with Quarterman too, right?
Right.
I need to, but we don't see that, you know, and Quarterman wants to go down there. He doesn't want to be in conflict with his delegate as well. So I think those are some of the concerns that are around with both Brenda and Brooke, Grossman, of course, and Cham. I would say I'm right down the middle.
You're 50-50?
I'm flipping a coin on this one, unfortunately.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I think this can go either way.
Wow.
And I wouldn't be surprised if either one.
I wouldn't
Right.
either at this point.
I would just say this. You know, this is one of the smallest races as well that we've covered, right?
Right.
In regards to what's going to move the needle, right? 100 votes, 50
100%.
votes
Right.
can move the needle. on
This
thing.
race is exactly what we call retail politics. And
I mean, because if you think about even when Peter Perini lost, when he ran against Quarterman, it wasn't
it wasn't a blowout.
It wasn't a blowout
Right.
or a large amount of votes that decided that. So, you know, this is a thing that can go either way. And I think the thing that to look at after this election is over is, did the intensity of what we saw on Facebook fool us?
Yeah.
Right? Because, you know, obviously, you know, Brooke has some rabid fans.
Yep.
And did that fool us into thinking that that's how the electorate was moving, because that's just what showed up on our news feed? Yeah.
So where are you on this?
I'm with Terrence. I'm in regards to this as a toss-up.
So 50-50?
Because I think I was 51-49 before.
I don't remember.
And I'd have to go back. We'd have to play the tape back to see exactly
Let's
where
go
I
to the
was.
videotape.
Yeah, but I'm 50-50 on this race, because I think there's a few things. You know, on a national level in regards to who's going to go to the polls, like, Democrats are finding more reasons to go to the polls.
Yep.
You know, the country, you know, broadly the country is looking for more accountability in regards to some of the things that are alleged and have been proving that our former president has done. Like, the electorate is changing in regards to that. You know, also we have some things on the ballot in the state that will bring more Democrats out that Terrence has talked about, you know, with marijuana. And the other thing that we're seeing nationally is, from all political persuasions, is that there are many people that have been turned off by the striking down of a woman's right to choose.
Absolutely.
That is getting people to come to the polls. So it'll be interesting to see, like, will that drag Brooke across the finish line? Or if people just look at this individually, like, this is not about party, and they can look at a Quarterman and say, we like what he's done in regards to helping us, and we would like for him to have a teammate there.
Yeah. Well, and I think the Roe v. Wade decision is very applicable, because in this case, the state, you know, normally we would say that's a national issue, the state can't do much. Well, guess what? The state can do a whole lot right now.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of women in my family and friends as well are waiting to cast their ballot, even though it's
They'll
not
protest,
right,
right.
And protests. And I think that's going to be a big issue, and I think that's going to be nationally.
Yeah.
Right. So you're 50-50.
I'm 50-50 right now today, but I'll be back next week because
He's getting out the calculator again.
yeah, I'm 50-50, but I'll be back next week because we got to monitor these things. We can't just be willy-nilly with predictions here.
All right.
All right. Judge of the circuit court, I'm going 100% on Joe Michaels on that.
Gee, I wonder why.
You guys with me on that, Joe
Yeah.
Michaels?
Yeah, it's a
And for everyone, he is running unopposed. So he's pretty safe on that unless there's a write-in candidate that's worthy. But he was vetted by Governor Hogan, so he looks like he has a clear path to that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then that's a, what, 15-year term, 12-year term?
I believe it'll be 15 for
15.
him since we talked about that in regards to how it.
I think it's 15-year term.
He has to go before the voters, and then I believe this moves him into a 15-year term.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's go to our county commissioner race, and let's start from the leading vote getter in that race, which is Jeff Klein. Odds of retaining a seat, Jim.
25%. I mean, so here's the thing. What I'm doing is I'm taking the whole field and I'm saying I give.
Wouldn't it be cleaner if we just said the percentage that they're going to retain or win the seat?
Okay, 100%.
Okay. Mr. Moore on Jeff Klein.
100%.
100%. You guys are not going to outflank me on this one. Next up, John Barr. I'm going to come in with a hefty 100% off the top. I'm not waiting for anyone else. Mr. Moore?
100%.
100%.
All right, very good. Next up, we have the third leading vote getter that we were a little surprised about at the time. Oh, actually, you know what? I apologize, Randy. Randy was actually the second vote getter, and I skipped right past Randy Wagner.
Yeah, 100%
Let me
on
hit
mine.
Randy with 101% to make up for bypassing him. Terrence.
100%.
Excellent.
And don't forget our Democrats.
We're going to get there. We're just walking through the Republicans first. Next up, we have Wayne Kiefer, fourth leading vote getter.
100%. I think he gets in as well.
Jim.
80%.
80% on Kiefer.
I just think it stays chalk because I haven't heard anything since the primary. It's like the campaigning was over, everything was kind of done. It kind of just died
Now,
down.
and again, I got to ask the question: if he wins both Republican Central Committee and County Commissioner, well, I guess he did win Republican Central Committee, right?
He did.
Okay, so he's on the Republican Central Committee. What happens there? There's a problem in my mind processing the fact.
I'm sure you can make a quick phone call and figure out how they're getting to the bottom of that.
Okay.
I'm sure they're going to step. He'll step out of his position at the Republican Central Committee and
And
stay in
use
his
his
commission role.
influence in regards to who he would want to take his place.
Well, he's not on the Central Committee officially until the next year, right?
Right.
So he can't use his influence because if he
Well,
steps away, it just goes to the next person that the next vote getter.
Does it?
Does it?
He can't pick. He's not even on the Central
But
Committee
can the
officially.
Central Committee pick?
I didn't say you pick. You can use your influence.
Oh.
And
You could use your influence on the Republican Central, and you'd have better. And I don't know what political persuasion you are. I'm a registered Republican. They won't take my call.
well, you spent the last 2 years with us being a rhino.
All right.
Last up on the Republican side, we have Derek Harvey.
80%. Sorry. I think
I'm going 95%.
I think he's got momentum.
I'm going 95%.
Yeah, he's going to get 100 from me as well.
Whoa.
See, I knew you were going to go 100 across the board on the Republicans. I knew that. I just wanted to be a little different and leave 5%.
So what
out
did you
there.
give? You gave Kiefer 100?
Yeah, I'm giving Kiefer 100. I mean, that was a strong showing in the primary, and I just if you really think about it on the Republican side, the only thing to be decided is the race of who becomes for president.
Right.
Like,
I don't believe that's true.
You
so
think-
which one of these five you think could fall out of position before we get to the Democrats?
Kiefer,
Ooh, you think Kiefer could lose his spot to a Democrat?
I do.
Mm.
I think Kiefer has been living on borrowed time. I think if you go back,
But the primaries,
I think
though,
if you
didn't-
go
didn't
back,
say that.
well, that's true. I think if you go back and look at some of the county commissioners' meetings, the videotapes, you can see what I consider to be an obvious lack of leadership in that particular commissioner. Sorry. And he's a very nice guy. I like the guy personally. I like him a lot. I just don't think he's right for our county.
Yeah. My problem with this is, and this is the problem with when you vote for 5 candidates in one slate, right? You already have commanding, 5 Republicans, 2 Democrats. You get to pick up to 5. Now, they don't tell you, most people don't know. You can just pick one.
Oh, you can, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
But no, most people don't know that. So what most people will do, and Democrats will do this, is even if they pick their 2 Democratic candidates, they'll also give 3 of their other votes to the Republicans. So you're diminishing your vote pretty much by giving vote to the competition. And a lot of people don't know they can just vote 2 Democrats
Right.
and not vote anymore. Most people will fill the ballot out completely, assuming that they need to go up to 5.
See, I don't know that I would say that the people that vote, because it says very clearly in the machine, vote for up to 5. It doesn't say vote for 5.
I understand that it says
It says that, yes.
That's a pretty simple instruction.
So is the fine print of your mortgage.
No. No. All right. So what about, where are we, Williams, Chance? Chance of getting in.
Oh, so we're moving on to the Democrats.
Yeah.
Please don't get ahead of me, Jen.
I'm
Please.
sorry.
Please. With the Democrats, I'm going in order here, just kind of going down the sheet. First up, Sterling Sanders.
0.
Terrence.
Oh, I've used up all mine already. I gave 100% to the last 5 candidates. That's it.
Oh, okay.
So did you. So I'm the only one that thinks Mr.
No. I have 5% reserved. So keep going.
Oh, okay. So, all right.
Well, my chips are on the table.
I'm going 0% for Mr. Sanders. I don't think he has a shot to be able to get a seat.
I agree.
It's just not there. Lastly, Mr. Dave Williams. I'm coming to you, Jim. You know that.
Yeah. I like Dave. I like Dave a lot. I think he's got an uphill battle, but I think, in my humble opinion, we need some diversity. There's a word that we like to talk about these days. Let's have some diversity.
Yeah, but it's a talk word. But keep going.
Let's have some diversity in our county commission. I think the man has a lot of good things to say. I don't agree with him on everything. I probably agree with him on 70%, but he has leadership. He has.
Should I carry the one?
Round.
Okay. So is that 20% you're putting on Dave? That's how much you had left, right?
20%. Yeah. Well, I had. Yeah.
I agree with you. I believe if there was a Democratic candidate that would be able to shock or surprise one of the Republican candidates, I believe it would be Dave Williams. Again, it's an uphill battle. The numbers
It's a
don't look
big
like
time
it,
uphill battle.
It can
Huge.
happen. And you said that you don't agree with him all the time, but you're not supposed to. And I think
That's the point.
That's the point. And I think I don't want a candidate that thinks exactly like me.
And
I want a
I don't
candidate that
wanna-
thinks in my best interest
Exactly.
and is willing
You know, we talk
to
about.
hear me out.
We
That's
talk
it.
about rhinos and dinos, right? Right? Seriously.
Didn't you create Dino?
No, I'm sure
You
somebody
didn't
else-
trademark
no.
that one? Okay, go ahead.
Rhino, Republican in name only, Democrat in name only. The
I
point
got you.
is, the far left and the far right, I have another term for them: sycophants.
There you go.
They follow the party line no matter whether it's right, wrong, smart, stupid, whatever. That's what they do. And if that's the country we live, well, that's not the country that I assure you our founders envisioned.
Unfortunately, it's the way we are. We're separated by party lines, the red and the blue, and a lot of people vote party lines.
Again, I listen, I'm gonna help you guys with this. I had 5% left, 5% on Dave. We are in a county that is largely conservative outside of city limits.
Well, I agree.
I think for a Democrat to truly have an opportunity to win in our county, number one, they need to be well resourced. And number two, they're going to need to have accomplishments in regards to doing things on a local and or state level when coming into this position to overtake a Republican.
Turn in 2024.
Oh,
All right.
I don't have the resume, and I have a lot of children. So.
And we've got 2 minutes left. Register of wills.
Register of wills is going to be tough, right? Because Lacey Fluke running as a Republican against the incumbent Jason Alott that many of us love. But if you look at the pure votes, she outpaced him by over 3,000 votes in the primary.
Yeah, I don't care. He's going to win.
Yeah,
You think the independents are going
100%.
to come in and
100%.
clean that up for him?
100% on my lot.
Okay.
I'm 100%. I think his resume speaks. Yeah, I think this was a party line primary.
Yeah.
Skew.
My heart's at 100% for Jason, but the math has me at 80-20.
Yep. Wrap it.
Fair enough? All right, gentlemen, that was fun. Let's do this again. So, thank you for being with us. But that's all the time that we have for tonight. We hope that you'll like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and send us your comments to feedback@theflipsidetv.com. That is feedback@theflipsidetv.com. And most importantly, join us again next week for another episode of